Thank you. You mentioned that the president's going to be going to New York tomorrow. You mentioned that he's going to a district that he won in 2020. It also happens to be a district that is represented by a Republican currently. Can you talk about the decision to target this specific district and what the president plans to say? And also, can you address the fact that the Republican member of Congress, Mike Lawler, agreed to the White House's invitation to appear alongside the president and what that means for the president?
So look, I'm going to let the congressman speak for himself. He can do that. He's able to do so. I mentioned this at the top. The president's going to drive home the impact of these current discussions that we're having, the economy, how it affects real hardworking Americans. That's what you're going to hear from the president. He'll be very clear about that. He'll be clear about what could potentially happen. And yes, you know, we've talked about default and what that could look like, recession, triggering recession, potentially 8 million jobs lost. But let's not forget the other piece of the act that Republicans in the House has put forward. Let's not forget veterans. Let's not forget health care. Let's not forget schools to support staff. Those things are also embedded or part, a 22% cut to these programs that families really, truly need. So he's going to talk about that. I'm going to let the congressman speak for himself. The president loves to travel across the country to different districts, different states, and that's what you're going to see from this president tomorrow.
The president talked about, you know, having a sense of unity and not questioning people's motives and sort of bringing the temperature down in politics. We've seen him on the stumps. We've seen his stump speech. We've seen how aggressive it can be about quote-unquote MAGA Republicans. You are going to have a Republican member in front of his constituents right there alongside the president. Will that change the way the president addresses the crowd?
The president's always going to be honest with the American people. There's a real question about where our economy is going to be going, right? And that is something that the president's going to lay out for the American people. And so, look, when the president speaks, it's not just to the people who are in front of me, or in front of him, pardon me, or the people in that district or in that state. He's speaking to the nation, and sometimes to the world when he's at the podium or when he's speaking, when the president speaks just in general. Like, everyone listens, and you all cover, you all write about it. And so this is a message that he'll have to the American people about what's at stake. Americans need to know what's at stake. You know, it's basically to Kelly O's question. They need to know what's at stake here, where we're headed with our economy. The president has worked the last 2 years to rebuild our economy, as we've always said, from the middle out, bottom up, and we've had some successes. If this occurs, it's going to take us back. It's going to take us back. And so the president's going to be very honest, very upfront with the American people. That's what you'll hear from him, as he always is when he speaks. And so he'll lay out what's at stake.
Okay. Thanks. Just a quick follow-up on, can you just give a bit more specifics on why the president chose Hudson Valley to give this speech? And does he think that giving this speech on avoiding the default and going after the Republican plan that they passed would actually convince them to pass a clean debt limit increase?
So I'm not going to get ahead of the president. He'll lay out why he's there, as he always does, why he's in front of the audience that he'll be speaking to tomorrow. So I'm going to let him speak to that. But what I can say is, again, kind of what I just said to your colleague. The president's going to be very clear about what's at stake, the impact of the current discussions that we're having, the impact of this budget and this default that House Republicans have connected. He's going to make it very, very clear. This is going to hurt American families. It's going to hurt our economy, and it's going to hurt American families. We're talking about American families that need these programs, that are having the 22% cut. They need it just to make ends meet. So he's going to lay that out, as he has many times when he talks about the economy, when he talks about what MAGA Republicans are doing. He's mentioned that before. He's talked about that before over especially the last 2 weeks. And so now he's going to be doing it in New York in front of an audience, again, speaking to the country, as he does every time he speaks as President of the United States. And I'll let him speak to why now, why New York, and what is it that he wants the American people to know.